tell me, shut up, you shut up, and just start doing my whole thing. And I lock up with him, put in a headlock, and I go, I guess we're calling it all in the ring. So my first 4-minute match was called in the ring, literally meeting my opponent for the first time in the ring.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So, I mean, talking about pressure being on, I had no idea what I was doing or how I was going to do it. But I managed to, I guess, not look completely incompetent, although I'm sure I'd watch the clip back and want to shake my head at this point.
Hey, you know what, for like 3 weeks and getting kind of thrown in that situation, you know, you couldn't have done that bad. You know, you made it and the match went over. And
Right.
You know.
Right. It worked for 4 minutes, and at the end of the day, it wasn't, you know, the worst thing. I mean, it certainly wasn't the worst match on the card that night, which should say something, but I mean, it was what it was. I have a couple of, I think my first 10 matches just randomly put together on different DVDs. Actually given to me by Will Ferrara from Ring of Honor. Him and I broke in together, and we're still really close friends. But a lot of matches of him at like 15, 16 years old, just, you know, looking white and pasty and like a kid. He was a kid.
Right. Wow. I mean, do you look back at those sometimes and laugh, or imagine like how far you've come, you know, since those days?
I laugh at those. I laugh at those all the time because it's again, it's just kind of funny to look back and, you know, see where we all got started. I mean, I can imagine any wrestler that you have on here, you know, you have some fond memories of like their first year in pro wrestling, but at the same time can look back on it and go, like, I didn't understand a damn thing. I was just, you know, going wild and not really knowing where to start or begin. That's just kind of, I think, everybody's start.
Do you think that not knowing, you know, that knowledge and understanding, you know, what you're doing and why you're doing it, do you think that just comes with experience? Do you think that can be taught? Where do you think that comes from?
I think Al Snow, during a seminar, given a quote that I kind of just use in life, which is, you know, opinions matter nothing. Knowledge equates to experience. So if you do not experience something, you don't know, you know, what the experience of something is, or have not experienced it for a long amount of time, you can't really speak about it as if you're knowledgeable about it. So I think that it's one of those things where you just pick up over time, like just understanding what professional wrestling is. And if at any point you feel like you know everything about wrestling, it's time to quit. It's really what it is. It's one of those things that you never stop learning. And you shouldn't. I mean, it's consistent. It's a constant learning experience. You just keep learning and learning and learning. You know, at the end of the day, I think what keeps a lot of people moving in pro wrestling is that everybody knows they need to just keep trying, keep taking in more information, just being a sponge. And, you know, those people who aren't, you know, don't last very long.
That's a really good point, you know, in terms of what we can learn and through wrestling. I mean, there's so much history, and there's so much different kinds of wrestling and different places, and it's interesting, like, you know, the flavor of, you know, Philadelphia versus, like, New York. Not to start a feud over that, but, you know, I mean, just different areas, like, even, like, southern type of wrestling, you know, that was going on, like, in Memphis and you know, Georgia Championship Wrestling in Florida and things like that. You know, or if you go over to Japan, which is, like, you know, completely different. There's so much good stuff going on there. It's almost like, you know, everywhere you turn, you know, there's something new to learn.
And the incredible thing about it is that this is a rich history to pro wrestling. That, I mean, the amount of books that have been written about wrestling, I'm sure you know, is, you know, vast, but barely even cracked the surface of what the history of pro wrestling is. Again, I read Bret Hart's book 4 different times. I've read other people's book multiple times, and you always take little extra things you remember out of that. Because, again, there's just so much information. You know, dating back to the carnival days, but even well before that, into the culture of bare-knuckle fighting, which plays into the history of pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know much about bare-knuckle fighting. I know a little bit about, like, the history of wrestling, but so how does bare-knuckle fighting kind of play into wrestling?
So, I'm probably going to screw up a couple of timelines here, because, I mean, 3 concussions in, I don't remember everything. But,
it's okay.
So, the way that it would work, you'd have, like, you know, guys who were just general, like, dock workers, or they were just, you know, blacksmiths, or whatever they were, and during their lunch breaks, they would, bare knuckle box in order to be able to, I guess, buy lunch that day. So like they'd gamble over, whatever, couple of cents they had. And those guys would eventually become what they called hookers. The guys who they'd have in the carnivals, who they'd have, fight our champion and win $100.
Okay.
So that was kind of the way that culture started, where you had these guys who were these, badass boxers who were just, murderers of their time. And they would eventually become these guys who would take on whoever in the crowd would go at them in the carnivals. I guess that's kind of where that starts out. But then you also have, the history of bare knuckle boxing, where that breaks off into like, warring families in Europe and all that craziness. I mean, I've done very little, but still, significant research on like the bare knuckle boxing culture. If anybody's interested in that stuff, it's fascinating to check out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, even just hearing you describe a little bit about, like, the circus culture, like, my family was in the circus and stuff, and, way back. And so that kind of culture, it does really relate to wrestling, especially if you're in companies that do a lot of traveling, like WWE does. Some of the indies do a lot of traveling, that sort of, the different dynamics between people, depending on their roles, the fans, and trying to get their attention, and, different kind of things that you'll do to hook them in, to come in.
And going back to, that carnival culture where it's, the whole idea of the midway and, the carnival games. I mean, the psychology behind that is the psychology of wrestling and understanding kind of how to bring people in and, hey, you're paying for this, you're paying for this fantasy. What is the fantasy that you're, witnessing a real fight? What is this fantasy that you're going to win this prize, no matter, how impossible that might actually be? But you keep paying because you believe and because you want to believe. It's again fascinating when you actually delve into it.
Yeah,
I think we're getting way too scientific about all this.
No.
For wrestling.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, you want to believe in something, and wrestlers is like, some people have superheroes. That's one type of hero. Wrestlers have become another type of larger than life type of hero. They're very similar.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is that wrestlers are actual people. So while you might not be able to go see Superman, and or Superman rather can't visit sick kids at the hospital, John Cena can.
Right. Exactly.
Which again, to me, makes him better than any kind of superhero there is. And you can go visit sick kids in the hospital. That's like pretty incredible work to me.
Yeah, and he does a lot of that. I have to say, a lot of people hate on him, but I have such a respect for his charity work and the things that he does. Like, and honestly, he doesn't seem like a really bad guy. Like, he seems like he'd be a really likable person to be around. Yeah,
I think a lot of wrestlers get a bad rap in terms of certain things with like certain fans, and I mean it's the same way when it comes to kind of anything in entertainment. People have their opinions on things, but at the end of the day, if you do the right thing and you're a good person, you can't really deny that. And again, it's just the nature of the beast when it comes to public figures in general. Everybody's going to have something to say. I think John Cena's many years of work speak for itself. And to a lot of guys that, the quote-unquote smart fans like to, talk about.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like that. It was like that back in the day with Shawn Michaels. A lot of people felt the same way about him. A lot of the smarter friends, they didn't like him. They, a lot of people hated Shawn Michaels back in the day.
You look at his body of work, and it's like, the guy was possibly the best of all time. Yeah. You can't really hate too much.
I think if there was like a Mount Rushmore, people talk about the Mount Rushmore of wrestling because, from the faction or whatever. I would think that if you're talking the greatest of all time, Shawn Michaels, in the U.S., I think Shawn Michaels has got to be on there,
Again, this is things that I've definitely discussed before. Without a doubt, Shawn Michaels is definitely a contender for going up there. Definitely meeting up with a Ric Flair, Steve Austin, The Rock.
Oh, man.
All these guys who, have Hogan. I mean, crap. I mean, at that point, you've got to start pumping Shawn Michaels out because if you look at, the other guys, it's just like, damn. But, Flair, Hogan, Austin, The Rock are definitely my Mount Rushmore.
Really? I think I would tend to go with more of the athletic guys, so I would probably go with, like, people like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, I think are two of them that would go up for me, just because of what they've done and just how talented they are. So those two would definitely go up. The last two spots are really hard. I think Austin has to go up, just for really how he changed the game. And Austin...
Oh, yeah, I mean, again,
man.
Completely. Yeah, him and The Rock were... I don't think you can get two people better in terms of protagonist and antagonist on both ends to just be able to draw you money.
That's true. Rock is another good choice. He might be my fourth choice, because Rock, despite whatever people say, he draws money. He's a good actor, he makes money. He's very talented and very charismatic, and, it seems like he's always been that way. I was watching a little thing on the network about him, and they were talking about a little bit about his history, like a before they were stars type of thing, and, he's always been around wrestling. He's always been that kind of charismatic. He has a natural just charisma when it comes out, like when he stopped being Rocky Maivia and he started being The Rock, it just naturally came out. And it was like, whoa, hey. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, definitely they struck gold with that guy for years. And so you're going to try and get that for the rest of... I think everyone else is going to be measured up to that standard from that one, where I think for a while everybody was measured up to the Hogan standard. Mm-hmm. I think everybody at this point is like, who's going to be the next Rock?
Right.
Well, you know what? I might be wrong. Maybe everyone's saying who's going to be the next Cena. I mean, that guy's, I guess the pinnacle at this point. But who knows? Again, like I said, definitely a very interesting time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Cena's coming back very soon from his injury, so it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of new faces now. That Sami Zayn's finally on the roster. Cesaro's now back, and he's like invigorated. Kevin Owens is still being Kevin Owens and being awesome. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays into kind of the new scene and how things work. And Randy Orton, who's coming back too in the summer, I believe. So that'll be interesting to see how those guys who are so huge, who are big for their time period, will do now they're coming back.
I'll tell you, in terms of actual in-ring talent, I don't think there's been a roster in the history of pro wrestling that can compete with this. What they've got now. I mean, like you just started right off the bat, Zayn, Owens, Cesaro, as your mid-card.
Right. It's true.
It is enough to kind of turn heads.
Yeah, those are the guys who are going for the Intercontinental Championship, And,
right.
And reminding us why that was like such an important and very cool title. I mean, there's been so many great matches underneath that championship, and these guys are just adding to that, which is awesome. And you know what? People hate on The Miz a lot, but I like him. I don't think he's the best wrestler, but I think he knows he's really good with like media stuff and entertainment. Like I think he knows who his character is. I think he's really good at getting that over. And
he's super talented. Again, like I said, I don't think there really is anybody who's not pulling their own weight in that company. I mean, it certainly shouldn't be the case. They're a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of guys that are super interesting to watch and it's a good time. I mean, even the people they have in NXT, like we're all waiting for Samoa Joe to get on the main roster. We're all waiting for Finn Balor, to come up. So there's just so much talent. And now AJ Styles and the Bullet Club are around, and AJ, just his match with Roman Reigns at Extreme Rules. I don't know if you got to see that. Was just absolutely. I mean, I guess to make a pun, phenomenal. I mean, it was so good.
That match was Payback. Extreme Rules is the next one, if I'm not mistaken. But the one they just had on pay-per-view, I was blown away. That was a main event match if I've ever seen one. When you think main event, that was your main event.
It was great. And, I loved how they did the sort of the endings, like that gimmick there where, okay, now it's no count out, now it's no disqualification. Like, even that didn't make the match feel jilted. It just felt like a natural progression of the match. As you're going in, it's getting more intense. Like, it just worked on so many really great levels.
Well, it was fantastic. I can't have any complaints. It was so entertaining to watch as a performer and as a fan. Again, I keep saying it, but I keep going back. This is most definitely the most interesting time to be a wrestling fan. I mean, WWE, the indies are up too. I mean, indie shows are drawing again, and the talent you've got on these shows, because again, the bar is so high on TV that these guys can't slack at all.
Right.
Every indie show is a killer. Every show that I've been on as of late, just seeing what's out there, all over the place, between Chicago and Pennsylvania.